In this video, we are going to do problem 14.01, all dash caps. All right, so I have the file downloaded and opened up in Racket. So let's just scroll down and look for the problem statement. Problem A. So notice how the data design steps is done. All right, so let's just review that really quickly. They're all checked off. All right, so we have a list of string as one of either empty or cons string list of strings. So we're dealing with a self-reference. Interpretation is just a list of strings, and here is a template for that. Okay, so write a function all dash caps that follows this example, right? So calling all caps with this list of strings, cons happy on the cons birthday empty, produces cons happy on the cons birthday empty, all right, with all the letters that are capitalized, all right? Finish the uncompleted function design steps 1 through 5 above. All right. So pause the video and try to work through the steps for the design of all dash caps. I'll move over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So now let's go over it together. As always, we start off with a signature. So all caps consumes a list of string and produces a list of string. All right, next is the purpose statement. Produces the given list of strings with all the letters capitalized. All right, next is the stub. So define all dash caps consumes a list of strings, right? But let's come up with string dash list. Usually I like to follow the name according to the template here. In fact, maybe it's better if we shorten it to str dash list. That's probably what I'm going to do in other problems, right? But for this problem, let's just leave it as string list. So this produces a list of strings. So let's just produce empty, right? Empty is one of the list of strings as a dummy value to run against some examples. So check expect, let's say all caps of the empty list, right? So there are no strings in this list. So let's just produce empty, right? Because we have to produce a list according to the signature. And looking at this list of strings, it's one of these two things. So let's just produce empty. That seems like a reasonable base case. Let's do another example with one long, check expect, all caps. So we're going to do, let's see, cons meow empty. All right, that's one long. All right, so what should this list produce? All right, calling all caps onto this list. Well, with meow all capitalized, right? Like so. Yeah, let's do one more example with a list that's too long. Okay, so I'm going to copy this down. They gave us an example here with a list too long, so let's just use that. All right, so calling all caps with happy birthday should produce this list with happy birthday in capitalized notation, like so. Okay, so let's just space this down so that we can see what this should consume and what this should produce at a glance. Okay, that's more easier to see. Gonna run our stub against these three examples here and make sure that there are no syntactical errors. Looks like it's just differs and mismatches, so we are good on that department. I'm gonna comment out the stub. All right, is there something that consumes a list of string? And that's a template that we can use as a scaffold. Yes, there is. Gonna copy this down and paste in the name here. Okay, so now really pause the video. Hopefully this should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve the problem for all dash caps. I'm gonna go over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So now let's go over it together. All right, so looking at our examples here, right? If we consume an empty list, we should just produce empty. So that's the base case, right? So like so. Now comes the harder part, right? So this has to produce a list of strings, and the only way to produce a list of strings, a list in general, is with cons. So that is the combinator like so. All right, so how do we transform the first of the given thing in the list? And these would be the strings, right? So let's look at this example here. So meow, right? So how do we turn this meow into capitalized all letters meow, right? Well, it's a list of strings. It consumes strings, right? A list of strings. So let's just look at the documentation as to things that consume strings, all right? In this case, you would scroll around and look for something that hopefully fulfills what you need. I think we know what we need. It's going to be string dash upcase, right? That's what I know off the top of my head. Okay, so let's wrap this around a string dash upcase. Okay, so what do we want to do? Cons string dash. Okay, so the first of these lists of strings, right? Onto what? Well, onto all caps the rest of the string list, right? Which will assume that it will just fulfill this purpose statement and just work for all the other ones, right? So for a 2 length long list, right? You just assume that it'll work because we proved that it worked for a 1 length long list. All right, and you can make a 3 length long list and 4 length long to double check if you want to. But anywho, let's just run against this test here and make sure that it all works. And so it does. So let's quickly fill out the table to see how it evaluates from a mechanical perspective step by step. So I'm just going to copy the original list that we were given in the most complicated example here. So this is step 0, cons, happy on cons, birthday empty. Is this list empty? No, there's happy birthday in this list, so that's false. The first of this list is going to be happy, like so. All right, so we want to string upcase the first of this list. So it should be the string happy. That's what it's going to produce. And what is the rest of this list? Well, it's going to be cons birthday empty, like so. And we're going to take this and do a recursive call, all right? So is this list empty? No, there's birthday in this list. Falserino. What is the first of this list? Well, it's going to be birthday. So I'm going to grab that. All right, so string upcase of the first of this list. Well, it's going to be birthday, but all capitalized. All right, and what is the rest of the list, right? In this case, the rest of cons birthday empty is just empty. And we're going to do our final recursive call, like so. So is this an empty list? Yeah, it is an empty list. So this should produce true, and we hit the base case. So in this case, the base case, this will be error, and I'm going to note that we hit the base case empty. Right, that's our value here. And of course, all these other ones would be error, right? Error. And that is the bird's eye view of the all caps execution onto the cons happy birthday input. All right, so now let's just submit this into hand in. It's what, 14.01 14-01 all caps. Submit this to hand in and make sure that it passes the server side test. Okay, and check your score like so. All right, and that is about it for this video, and I will catch you in the next one.